Colorado's race for governor is shaping up to be competitive, expensive, and nasty. Republican Walker Stapleton and Democrat Jared Polis cruise to their party's nominations.
Republicans are ecstatic to face Polis, the Democrat widely viewed by them as the easiest to beat, although easy is going to be a relative term, as Polis will pour his sizable fortune into a race this year that is expected to favor Democrats nationwide. Polis won the Democratic primary tonight by a surprisingly wide margin, 45% of the vote, 20% ahead of his nearest challenger, one-time frontrunner Kerry Kennedy. Mike Johnson finished with 23%. Governor Hickenlooper's handpicked successor, Lieutenant Governor Donna Lynn, trailed badly at 7%.
On the Republican side, a bit tighter. Frontrunner Walker Stapleton has taken nearly half the vote, 49%. Victor Mitchell has 31%. Greg Lopez, 12%. And Doug Robinson, 9%.
So we have Jared Polis versus Walker Stapleton in the election for governor. It is a clear contrast for voters. Polis is a progressive Democrat who has led on restricting oil and gas development. He's championed the marijuana industry, and he's called for universal health care. Walker Stapleton has tied himself closely to President Trump and his policies. He's criticized sanctuary cities like Denver and says that Colorado does not need to raise taxes to meet its education and infrastructure needs.
And tonight we're hearing from both camps. Marshall Zellinger is with Walker Stapleton's campaign in Greenwood Village.
We begin, though, with Brandon Ritteman, who is at Jared Polis's victory party in Broomfield. Brandon?
Yeah, and Jared Polis is actually working the room right here. He's over here. I've seen him talking to a few members of the state legislature tonight who've been coming by to congratulate him at his party here. Not too far from Boulder. We can see the Flatirons just out the window here. Jared Polis was trying to draw that exact contrast you mentioned, Kyle, in his victory speech. He mentioned Donald Trump by name, he mentioned Walker Stapleton by name, and then afterwards when we talked to him about whether Donald Trump was going to be a huge force in this governor's race, he said he doesn't want the race to be all about that, but he did say that he wants to draw a contrast between himself and Stapleton because he says Stapleton is beholden to Trump, has tied himself to Trump in his primary campaign, and that is an issue he intends to bring to the campaign trail. Here's a little bit from Jared Polis's acceptance speech.
On almost every question before us this election, from whether or not health care is a human right, to whether immigrant children deserve human decency and human rights, to even the basic question about whether or not honesty is important in the public sphere, Walker Stapleton comes out on the wrong side, and the people of Colorado know that.
So you have this interesting sort of dynamic that's popping out right now where right away Jared Polis is on the offensive, trying to hit Walker Stapleton over his connections to Donald Trump, over his support of Donald Trump, which makes sense given that Colorado went for Hillary Clinton. At the same time, he's trying to sort of throttle back and say, hey, we're going to run a positive campaign that's all about us. It's hard to have it both ways on that, especially when you're coming out swinging this early in the race, but you can bet this is going to be one that heats up in the months ahead heading into November.
And Brandon, in a year that is thought to be pretty favorable for Democrats across the country, this is going to be closely watched nationally to see whether a state like Colorado is willing to go as far left as Jared Polis.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I asked him about that. Like, is it fair to portray you as more liberal than John Hickenlooper? And he offered some praise for John Hickenlooper, but then rattled off a whole laundry list of ideas that he wants to get done, like renewable energy. You know, it occurs to me we have, for the second time in a row, the Democratic Party in Colorado nominating a rather quirky guy to be their candidate for governor, but they do come from different planets. You know, Governor Hickenlooper's planet is, swimming in hydrocarbons, and Jared Polis's planet is covered in solar panels. In fact, he's making that a key plank in his campaign platform. He wants to take the state to 100% renewable energy for its electric grid. Kyle.
All right, Brandon Ritteman, thank you.
Brings back memories from the past when we talk about quirky. Okay, and we mentioned Marshall is in Greenwood Village with the Stapleton campaign, and I know you talked to Walker Stapleton as well, Marshall.
Yeah, Kim and Kyle, after he got off stage, he came over to us to talk about, what we wanted to know, his connection through the primaries to President Trump, which he started to back off of a little bit. Here at the party in Greenwood Village, you think that the supporters thought it was going to go a little longer, even though we called the race slightly before 7:30. There weren't even this many people in the room at that time, by the time he was officially the Republican gubernatorial candidate for Colorado governor. He was introduced on stage behind me by the last Republican governor of Colorado, Bill Owens, and on stage he said, "I am ready for unity." But when he came back to talk with us, we brought up that multiple references throughout the primary season of connecting himself to President Trump, and I wanted to know if he was going to have the president come to Colorado and campaign for him.
This election is not going to be about President Trump. This is a 10th Amendment issue. It's going to be a states' rights issue. A strong executive leader for Colorado is going to solve our problems in the state, from Medicaid expansion to education. The president is not going to fix those issues, and Washington's not going to fix those issues.
So let's remember that when we see the campaign ads for the general election. One thing he has dialed back on, we had done some truth checks about some of the things he has said in his ads, and he has shifted from "I was the only treasurer to support the president's tax plan" to "I was one of the first." So maybe he's learned a little something from this primary season. And to that unity pledge he said on stage, he followed that up by showing some of the differences between him and Polis, which he referenced by name, talking about his support of a single-payer healthcare system. And then up on stage here, Stapleton was talking about his responsible energy plan, a direct contrast to what we may see from Jared Polis. Kim and Kyle.
Yeah, he definitely made reference to his opponent throughout that speech, to his supporters tonight in many ways. I think we've seen a few missteps in the primary campaign. I think everybody's trying to avoid them as they move into the next cycle. All right, thank you, Marshall. And former state treasurer Kerry Kennedy's campaign ends in a distant and disappointing loss for her Democratic supporters who had hoped to elect Colorado's first female governor.
There's a time that she was the presumed frontrunner in the Democratic race for governor. She was backed by the powerful and vocal state teachers union, and she still lost by 20 percentage points. Our Ryan Herod joins us from the spot where Kennedy's team gathered. Ryan, disappointed, no doubt. Were they surprised?
Kyle, just a few people hanging around here still. I'm sorry, I'm having a little bit of trouble hearing you. These are supporters, Kyle, who feel like she ran a really good grassroots campaign. They point to April, when she won a majority of the delegates at the statewide assembly, at the Democrat statewide assembly. So there was a lot of hope for this candidate, but ultimately not enough to overcome 10-year Congressman Jared Polis, who put more than $10 million of his own money into his own campaign. So a tough loss for them tonight. The campaign did have the benefit of timing. She aligned herself closely with state educators, as you mentioned. She rode the momentum of those the teacher protests in the spring, which received nationwide attention. She also had the support of the state's largest teachers unions, which contributed a couple of $1 million to her super PAC. But again, not enough to overcome Jared Polis, who she says, no surprise, she will be backing in his fight against Walker Stapleton.
I know we're disappointed, but we have a lot of work to do ahead of us. Together, we need to make sure that Walker Stapleton does not become the next governor.
I also spoke briefly with Colorado Education Association President Carrie Dahlman, who of course backed Kerry Kennedy. I asked her about whether or not she would support Jared Polis, whether the CEA would support Jared Polis. She says there's a democratic process for the teachers union in selecting candidates that they want to back, but obviously it's looking very good for him, she says, because he has an A rating from the National Education Association. Kim, Kyle.
Last time we had that conversation with the head of the teachers union, she stared at me in silence for 6 or 7 seconds.
I was going to bring that up.
Unity is already happening as they get ready to back Jared Polis. Ryan Herod, thank you.
And longtime Colorado residents, they remember names like Ritter, Owens, Romer, and Lamb, and that's what they think of when they think governor. All men.
Republican Attorney General Cynthia Kaufman, she was soundly defeated in her attempt to get on the GOP gubernatorial ballot. 2 Democratic women did make the ballot, but were unable to make history.
It's been 20 years since voters in Colorado have had the opportunity to elect a woman governor. This is the state's highest glass ceiling, and so far, no woman has been able to break it. Colorado was one of the first to give women the right to vote, which is why some would argue progress hasn't kept pace. Colorado is one of 7 states that has never elected a woman governor or U.S. senator. In 2018, women are running for office in record numbers nationwide. More than 50 Democrats and 30 Republicans are running for governor. Former Lieutenant Governor Gail Shetler was the last woman to run for governor in Colorado. She lost in a close race to Republican Bill Owens in 1998.
I remember that night. I was assigned to her campaign headquarters, and it was 2, 3 in the morning. They said, she's not going to concede. Y'all might as well go home.
Staying in it.
And it was very, very close. And it's 20 years later, and we still haven't.
I think back 8 years to being at Walker Stapleton's victory party when he defeated Kerry Kennedy when he was first elected treasurer of the state. He has come a long way in terms of political polish and in terms of policy polish since then, but he faces a formidable force in Jared Polis. He faces a formidable force in Jared Polis to replace Governor John Hickenlooper, who much has been made about whether or not the governor has a real political constituency as he looks to run for president and whether he has a legacy in Colorado. It certainly did not transfer tonight to his lieutenant governor, Donna Lynn.
Well, we waited to hear from him for
Donna Lynn.
Well, we waited to hear from him for such a long time, it felt like, and then he decided Donna Lynn would be the person that he would make the heir apparent.
Kind of pushed her into the race, and the spark was just never there with voters, and she finishes in the single digits tonight.
So we talk about political influence. Things change.